Hello, this is Greg from SharePoint Maven, and today I would like to talk to you and show you one of my favorite features in SharePoint, and that is version history. What I would like to do first is pretty much explain to you what this feature is all about, and then I'll talk about how you can use it to your benefit in your daily routine as you collaborate with your colleagues and as you organize your information in SharePoint. So what is version history? Okay, it's pretty simple. Look, the idea behind version history is that everything you do in SharePoint, every time you modify a document or an item, a list item, another version is created for you automatically. All right. In the context, first I'll start with the documents. I'll talk about a little bit later how you can create version history, not just on documents in a document library, but also on list items within a custom list or any sort of list for that matter. So, but for now, I would like to focus on the document library because I think that's where you will truly appreciate the benefit of a version history. I have a document library here. I have some metadata fields, and I have a couple of documents that I uploaded a few minutes ago. And essentially, the idea behind, as I said, the idea behind version history is that every time you do something to this document, another version is created for you automatically. Now, if you just open the document, look at it, and close it, and nothing happens. But every time you make a physical change to the document, once again, another version, another revision is created for you automatically. So let me make a change to this document right here. This is a Word document. Once again, I have already uploaded it a few minutes ago. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a couple of changes. I'm going to change some metadata, apply some metadata. So here we go. I'm going to tag it. I have a couple of columns here. So let's assign it some metadata. Here we go. And here we go. Perfect. All right, I just tagged the document. I'm also going to make a change within the document as well. I'm going to type something up. So let's open the document. And by the way, that doesn't really matter. I mean, obviously, it doesn't really matter where you make the change. I happen to be making it in Office Online. I could also open the document through the native app. Version history behaves the same in both. And I will just make some changes. Here we go. Now, because once again, we're online, it auto-saves, right? If it was my native application from the desktop, then I would need to hit the save button. But online, we don't need to worry. Everything is changed automatically, or saved, I should say, automatically. So here we go. Made a couple of changes. Now, I would like to see what the version history is like. All right, on this document. How do you access the version history? Pretty much right-click, right? There are a few places where you can get that version history from, right? But the easiest and my favorite technique is just right-click, and you get to see the whole list of commands available in this file. One of them is version history. So let's take a look. Look at this. So I uploaded this document at this time right here. I assigned some metadata, as you can see. And then I also, remember, I typed in hello everyone in the document just now. Every single time I touch the document, it records who did it and and when I did it. Okay, and in case of metadata, it also kind of shows you the actual change. So this is pretty cool. I pretty much have the whole log. I mean, just in a matter of a few minutes, I already got a number of versions created for me automatically behind the scenes, and I have not even started working and collaborating on this document. So let me now show you a couple of things you can do with this particular with version history. A couple of cool things you can do, and that will, in my opinion, help you with your daily lives as you collaborate with others. So first of all, you will notice that each of these versions, they're kind of highlighted as hyperlinks. So what that means is that you can actually click on any one of them and open the document in whatever the application is, Word, Excel, etc., and see what the document looked like at that point of time. So this is how you get to open and see what the previous version looked like. Remember, I typed in hello everyone in that last revision, so I'm going to open this one, version 2.0, and let's see what the document looked like at that point of time. And it opens my native desktop application here. All right, and look at this. Remember, I typed in hello everyone. Well, obviously that sentence is not here, and that is because at that point we did not even type this up yet. So it just shows me the previous version of the document. Very, very powerful. All right, let me close it. All right, so yeah, I mean, if you have 10, 20 versions of the document, you can pretty much retrace the history and see and access the previous versions of the document just to see almost like a snapshot at a particular point of time. Another thing I would like to show you, and that is even more powerful, is the ability to restore. The ability to restore a previous version. Here's a scenario for you. I mean, let's say you worked on a very important document as some sort of proposal, and maybe a colleague of yours, didn't know what they were doing, and they went in and started making some changes. They messed up your document. All right, no worries. You can always come back in history at any point of time and restore a previous version. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, right now we're at 4.0. I want to restore 3.0, the previous version of the document, just before I typed this additional text in my document. All right, I just want to restore maybe 3.0. All right, so once again, we're at 4.0. I'm going to restore 3.0. So all you need to do is just click that little drop down next to the revision or the particular version number, and you will see this several choices. You need to hit restore. It will give you a warning message. Are you sure you want to do it? Absolutely, yes we are. And now look at this. What happens is that the 3.0 now becomes 5.0 because once again another version is created, and it goes back to history, not just in terms of the document itself, the content itself, but also in terms of metadata. If I were to restore some previous versions, before I did the tags, it would also come back in history in terms of metadata as well. All right, hope that makes sense. All right, so now if I, let me just refresh my screen. Now if I open my document again, look at this. I should not have any hello messages. That sentence is gone because what I did, I restored the previous version of the document. All right. So another cool thing you can do, here's another thing I would like to show you, is the ability to compare different versions of the document. And this is usually, something I know, folks in the legal field usually like to do like a black line, right? A comparison or red line comparison of the two different documents or two different revisions. Now this feature is not necessarily kind of a SharePoint feature, right? The compare feature is a Microsoft Word feature, right? But the thing is, what we're going to do, we're going to use Word, but we're going to compare two different versions of the same document. So we're kind of going to use the Word application, but rely on that. But we are going to pick up on the different versions that we store within SharePoint environment. So let me just make a couple of more changes to the document, just so that we have some context. All right, so I'm going to type that in. There's some text, and once again, everything is auto-saved. Okay, so once again, everything is auto-saved. There is no save button in Microsoft in Office Online. Here we go. Perfect. So let's see what's going on with our version history now. Perfect. Yeah, we got this 6.0 because of the couple of changes that I made in within the document. So what I would like to do now is I would like to compare, let's say this version to let's just compare it to the very first one, right? The original. All right. Now, in order to do this comparison, you cannot utilize Office Online, Word Online. You have to use the native app, the desktop Word application you have installed on your machine. So what we're going to do, we are going to open it in the native app. All right, here we go. I'm going to open it in my Microsoft Word that I have installed on my machine. All right. All right, I guess I do have autosave on. This is, by the way, a relatively new feature available in desktop applications. It pretty much follows the same kind of approach and strategy as online. And by the way, this is optional. Online, you have no choice. It also autosaves everything for you. There is no save button in Word. You can actually that's an optional field. You can either enable autosave or disable it. And let me just disable it. I want to be saving it myself. All right, perfect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to compare this latest version of the document to the original, one from from a few minutes ago. So in order to do that, you need to click on Review tab within Word, Compare. Now, there are many different options here. You can actually do the the various comparisons of this document to another document. This is not what we're going to do here. We are going to compare this version of the document to a specific version of the same document. All right, so you choose this and look at this. It gives you the same list of versions that you have in SharePoint, all 6 of them. And I'm going to compare it to version 1. All right, and all you need to do is just hit compare, and let's see what happens. And look at this. It shows me the original document. Remember, no text here. It shows me the the latest document I'm comparing, essentially version 6.0, and then here it highlights the changes, essentially the differences between the two documents in terms of content. Extremely powerful if you want to actually see and make sure as you collaborate with other folks, as you make changes and you want to see what's different, what has changed within your document. This is your best friend. All right, so I'm going to close that. Perfect. Yeah, I think we can close this as well. Now, another thing I want to talk about here is more of, I guess, best practice, right? So in the old days, if you recall, if we wanted to save multiple revisions of the same document, what we did was just add different suffixes at the end of the end of the file. So it's not uncommon to see 10, 20, revisions of the same file just because we want to save each and every version of the file. And the good example would be maybe a budget document, right? As you work on budgets, everyone has some input. You change things. And what did we do in the past on file shares and network drives? We would typically come up with some naming convention like budget dash revision 1, budget dash revision 2, and dash revision 20. Some of us would be creative and say revision 20 dash final, and then of course you would see revision 20 dash final ABC. So it gets crazy, right, with all these different revisions and of the same document, and you end up with just 30 40 different revisions of the same document, and it's just impossible to figure out what is what. No longer necessary. All right, with version history, and I know this is a huge change in behavior, but this is no longer necessary. What you can do is just literally upload the file to SharePoint, let SharePoint do the versioning for you. Keep the file name the same. Don't re-upload the file with a different name, because obviously versioning will be off, right? It's unique to that particular file. But you no longer need to save 20 different files. Just keep the same file name, collaborate, make changes to your budget document or whatever the document is, and that's it. I mean, you will just get the version history. Well, for now, I don't think I have any version history here. I just uploaded, didn't really do anything to this document. But at the end of the day, you will be able to track the changes. Whether it's in a Word document, Excel document, or any other document. And by the way, it doesn't really matter what document it is. It could be PDF, it could be a CAD file, it could be an image. As long as you maintain the same file name, it will always just keep versions on top of each other every time you make a change. All right. So just wanted to talk about that because that's obviously a big change in terms of our behavior, I guess, of how we did things. But with this modern technology, with the version history, I think it's just going to be much better to maintain and avoid the nightmare of all these multiple revisions of the same file. All right. Now, one of the frequent questions I usually get is, how many versions does it save? All right. That's a very interesting topic. So let me explain to you how this works. So by default, it saves the last 500 versions of the document. So if you don't make any changes, it saves the last 500 versions of the document. Now, in the past, we actually used to, set different limits, and you could even disable versioning altogether. But Microsoft has recently implemented a change. And as of this recording, you can no longer totally disable version history. You can set a smaller limit, a minimum is 100, but by default it's 500 versions of each document. So you will have quite a bit of history for each and every document. Now, how can you set a smaller limit? I don't think really you should, but why bother? But let me just show you. Gear icon, library settings. We go behind the scenes, we go under versioning settings right here. Now, in the past, we used to have another radio button over here. As you can see, by default, it does create a version each and every time. In the past, we used to have another radio button, which pretty much did, it said no versioning, okay? So it would not create any versions. Not anymore. Versioning is pretty much mandatory. And as I said, by default it's 500, but you can actually set smaller limits over here. As I said, 100 is the absolute minimum that you will get for each and every library. All right. And in all honesty, I don't think you should even go here. I mean, why bother? Storage is pretty much unlimited, and you will have quite a bit of history to go through. All right. So now it does create, how often does it create an extra version? Well, it depends. It depends. I'm not sure exactly, about the exact logic, but every time if you're working in Office Online, for example, in Word Online, right, we have the autosave. So sometimes if you end within the document for several minutes, it's not uncommon to have several versions created for you automatically. Essentially, about 30 seconds or so on average, as you work in the document, it creates another version for you. If you work in the desktop app, and remember, if you don't rely on autosave and you kind of click the save button, it's whenever you click the save button, as you make changes, another version is created. All right. Now what I would like to do now is shift gears a little bit and talk about custom lists or lists in SharePoint in general. I showed you the version history in the context of a document library, and I think that's where you will find probably the greatest benefit, but you can also enable versioning or take advantage of versioning in any SharePoint list. For example, like a task list, issues log, or just any custom list you might have. So let me see. I believe I have a custom list. I have a few in here. So here we go. I have an events list. This is the calendar. I have created a custom list. Pretty simple. I didn't go crazy with any metadata here, but it has a title field and a due date. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another change, and I'm going to make a change for the due date. Perfect. All right, let's change it to this one. All right. So once again, I can let's check out what the version history is. We can click those three dots, or right click, version history, and look at this. Once again, just like with documents, every single time you make a change, another version is created. And with lists, it's actually perfect, because we only pretty much with lists we only have metadata changes, right? We don't have the changes within the file, right? We don't have a file here. So as you can see, every time you do something, you can actually see what the change is. So you can pretty much track the history of a particular row at any given point of time. All right, you can see who did it and when and what the change is. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Now, with lists, you have to be careful, because what I found that it really depends what kind of list you have. If because versioning is not enabled by default on most of the lists. I noticed that it depends once again what type of list you create. If you create like an issues log and use the issues log web part, versioning is enabled. For custom lists, it's not. So if you want to create a brand new list, let me just show you. Let's create a brand new list, because I already tweaked this one. Let's go ahead and create another one. Here we go. Perfect. Here we go. And I'm not going to do any metadata. Let's go to gear icon, list settings, versioning settings. Look at this. Remember, this is the radio button I was talking about on the document library side, where it's not available anymore. Here it is, but it's not enabled. So just make sure when you create a new custom list, just make sure when you use any web part that is a list, like an issues log, a task web part, etc., make sure go to list settings, go to versioning settings, and check that box. All right, check that box. Once again, you can keep the different limits here as well. Set the different limits, but I usually don't bother with it. Keep the default. All right, last 500. All right, but make sure to enable this. Otherwise, you will not have any version history on your list. All right, I think this is all. This is everything I wanted to cover today about versioning, about the version history, and kind of the use cases for them. So hopefully you learned something new. As always, I look forward to seeing you on my blog, SharePointMaven.com, as well as my YouTube channel. Thank you very much for your attention, and have a great day. Goodbye.